got you dancing. You know, the essence of those musicals is to get you up on your feet and shake your body. You know, today is Monday, it's the beginning of a new week, and you need to really shake your body so that to get you prepared for what is ahead of you this week. Now we have a guest in the house. He is a public affairs analyst and also the president, Civil Liberties Organization of Nigeria. He is going to be talking to us about empowering women and children to recognize their rights and stand against abuses. Yes, you heard me right. You know, the discussion on abuses can never, never be overemphasized. So he is in the person of Mr. Iho Akeruga.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining
You're
us.
welcome to Good Morning Abuja.
Yes, thank you for joining us today. Okay, my first question to you is what educational initiatives could be implemented to teach children and women about their rights and how to identify potential abuses?
Well, there are a plethora of legislation and laws guaranteeing certain freedoms for women and children, and also create capacity and empowerment for women and children to recognize their rights. Now, with regards to the educational initiatives or opportunities that can be put in place to properly place these rights so that women and children can, take advantage of those pieces of legislation to actually, to practically exercise their rights. There are a plethora of them. For me, I think with relation to education, it has to start from primary school level, where, because that is the basic catchment area. At the primary school level, women and children can be taught, that is the girls and boys now, can be taught and strengthened to recognize what constitutes abuses and what are actually their rights.
Okay, meaning giving them that foundation.
Yes, you must first know what your rights are before you can, before you can advocate for the enjoyment of those rights. So at the primary school level, that's essential. Excuse me, you move to the secondary school where you have to then deepen the curriculum, make it a bit
At
advanced.
this point, the foundation has been laid.
Created, yes. So that happens. Then, of course, at the university level, you just cap it up with specific courses on the rights and the legislation and the rights of women and children. So it becomes a potpourri of empowerment. So from primary school to secondary to university,
there's a build of confidence.
So the confidence level
already know
built and consolidated for them to recognize.
Okay, so now being the president of the Civil Liberties Organization, how has your foundation organization now been able to partner with government and other NGOs to be able to bring out, it's one thing to say, okay, this is the policy, it's another thing to now say, okay, this is what you've done so far. How have you been able to do this together with other NGOs?
Well, the Civil Liberties Organization was founded in 1985.
Wow.
Yeah, so what the mandate at the time was to get the military back to the barracks.
Okay.
Because, countries around the world were embracing democracy. And Nigeria appears to be lagging behind. So the CLO was founded when the former head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, was in power. And the military were ruling by decrees and all of that. And we thought that is inconsistent with best global practices and development. So the CLO was founded as a leading human rights organization to aggregate and champion the aspiration of Nigerians towards embracing democracy. We succeeded in that, along with other civil society organizations, the Nigerian Labour Congress. We actually built a coalition at the time called the Labour Civil Society Coalition, which we worked in harmony, worked together, to deepen the campaign at the time, not to force the military. We encourage them to return to the barracks so that Nigerians can have the opportunity of democratically choosing their leader. So we succeeded. And in the CLO, we have the Women and Gender Desk, where we focus specifically on women and child rights. And between then and now, I must say that we've done a whole lot of work with support of our international partners, to create the environment for women to recognize their rights, for children also to know, particularly from abuses, from violations, from all kinds of deprivations. We also recognize that in Nigeria, we have two sets of laws. In northern Nigeria, you have the penal code, and then of course in southern Nigeria, you have the English law that we practice. So CLO tried to integrate these two laws we have in the country, recognizing the cultural diversity of the country and the specific environment for which we can pursue the enjoyment of these rights by women and children.
Okay.
And I must say that we've done quite some work on that.
Okay, let's look at schools. What role do you think schools can play? Okay, in teaching or making the children, or let me say children, especially students, to be aware of their rights? What role do you think schools can play? Because you find out that a lot of times things happen in schools and it's like, don't say it. Is that either they don't want to tarnish, they don't want to tarnish the name of the school, or they are protecting the name of the family. So what role do you think schools can play?
Well, the schools have a lot of roles to play in properly educating the girl child, whether it's even the boys too, because a lot of times we focus
On the girls,
and the boys too get abused.
The boys also get abused.
Yes.
But I think the propensity to abuse the girl child is more. That is why there's a lot
Focus
of
is
public
there.
concern.
Yeah.
Focus is there on the girl child. Now, what can the schools do? As I said earlier, the primary schools have the critical role to play in this. First, the teachers themselves must also be trained to know the kind of teachings they need to impact on these children.
Okay.
So at the College of Education level, where teachers are actually trained, the National Teachers Institute and all of that, they also need to update their curriculum so that teachers can be properly empowered and trained. So when they get to the classroom, they know what to teach the children. Then for the children, the reporting process. Well, we're Africans, we hardly report abuses that affect particularly the girl child. We think of discriminations. We also think of societal reprimand. For example, if a girl is raped by her uncle or a brother or somebody, a family member, they think it will bring shame to bring that public odium will come, so they cover it up. And that encourages the criminals to continue in those abuses. Most abuses actually occur within the close circuit members, not strangers. It is people you trust that you bring into the home, or even sometimes live with you in the house, that tends to abuse these children. And sometimes when the girl child they are in school, teachers also abuse some of these children. We've seen cases like that. The CLO have had to deal with a lot of those cases. The good thing is that in Nigeria now, we now have the government is paying so much attention, to expand the laws. In Lagos State, for example, that is at the forefront of gender issues. They've set up a department where domestic violence, they call it domestic violence department, that also deal with women abuses and abuses of children, where violators can be arrested and actually prosecuted. So there are specific laws now, that France are those.
Okay, but sorry, just a follow-up. Is there any kind of sensitization program done by your organization, especially in schools, so that the students will know at what point they'll be able to say, no, this is an abuse? Is there any sensitization? Because without it, if we rely on what the teachers are teaching, at times, like you said, abuses come from schools, teachers too. So is there any sensitization program to also
that's a good question. I told you earlier we have the gender rights desk department in CM. What we do occasionally is to visit selected schools, with the permission of either the headmaster, headmistress, the principals. Sorry, I'm having this bit of cough. Now, what we do is to teach the basics. Once they give us our opportunity, how can a child recognize abuse? When an adult or even a fellow student touch that girl child in specific parts of her body, the upper region of her body, the lower region. If you feel with that, will tell the child that is an abuse. And so what do? Report to your teacher. If the teacher does nothing, go to your head teacher and report.
Okay.
This person.
This conversation is interesting because I would still want to ask some questions, but we'll go on a break and then after I'll come back, we'll continue from where we stopped. Okay, we've been speaking with Mr. Iho Akeriga, and he is telling us a whole lot about empowering women and children to actually know their rights. We'll go on this short break, and after that, the program continues. Welcome back from that break if you're just joining. This is the Good Morning Abuja coming to you from the Unity Station NTA Channel 5 Abuja. And before we went on that short break, we've been having a wonderful conversation here with Iho Akerega. He is the Public Affairs Analyst, the President, Civil Liberties Organization. I've been talking about empowering women and children to recognize their rights and stand against abuses. So before we went on the break, you said if the children or the abusers should actually know what it is actually, what the abuse is all about. And then you were telling us how when they notice the upper region, the lower region, they should actually report. I was going to ask a question for the break. What if the teacher they are supposed to report to is actually the person abusing them?
Yeah, so what we tell them is to escalate the reporting process to their parents at home.
Okay.
So if it is a teacher that is involved, when you get home, tell your mother that your teacher is touching you in these parts of your body.
That's still another angle where how close are they? Because some parents don't actually give the room for these children to actually come up to. So it brings me to my next question: like, how should parents guidance actually come in introduce conversation? Because even talking about sex with children, parents are on the silent part about it. So how should parents and guidance actually bring up conversation about this to now make the area, the atmosphere calm, conducive for the children to be able to open up on such incidents?
Sorry, sir, let me add something. In schools, like the teachers, if they are the ones abusing, they instill fear. And you find out that the child will even be scared to tell
the parents. At home.
So when fear is involved, what do they do? So you can add it.
Yeah, that's another good question. This is where education and capacity building comes in.
Okay.
Every abuser starts by instilling fear. It's not even only the teacher. Whether it's the uncle, the brother, a family member. If you tell anybody what I'm doing, I will do this, I will do X, Y, Z to you. And as a child, so we tell them that you don't have to be afraid of anybody who is threatening you. In fact, threat itself is an offense. When you threaten somebody that you will kill, you will do that. It's a different offense on its own. So we tell those children never to be afraid. Usually, there's one person that the child talks to, the father, the mother, that if you don't have anybody in your family that you can speak to an older friend. And so I want to tell my mother this or my father this, but I'm afraid I don't know how to tell them. Help me tell them. All right? So we tell them that anybody, we start by asking them, who do you love most in your family? The child must mention a name to say, we love you, I love. Now,
I love mommy.
Yes, okay. Some will say, I love mommy. Usually, the girls like their dad, while the boys, prefer their mom. So because Sigmund Freud, who is an expert in child psychology, has said that he gave that theory to say why boys tend to like their mother and girls tend to like. So we understand all of that. So when the child tells us who they like in the family, whether it's the mom or the dad, we then say, okay. Now, everything that happens to you in school that affects these areas, go and tell your mom or your dad. Sometimes don't even tell your teacher. Go home because the teacher may want to protect the school and the image of the school. If it has happened within the school environment, go home and tell your parents. The parents will come and take it up with the school authorities. And you can see that a lot of time parents have gone to schools to take it up with schools, and it has resulted in arrest being carried out by the police. It is because of this continuous education that civil society groups are involved in. And of course, the National Orientation Agency of Government. And there are so many women rights groups now that also come that are educating women and children on their specific rights. And the children are also beginning to have that consciousness.
Let's look at if it's made public. How will the person victimized, how can that person manage the stigma? When somebody is raped and is made public, an arrest is made, okay? Now, everybody knows that this person was raped or something like that. So how can that person manage the stigma?
Well, it's a thin line. It's a bit difficult, but what we do, and of course in journalism, we have the rules of protection. You can protect the identity of the child. You can say a particular pupil was raped in so-so school without mentioning the name, and that the culprits have been arrested and is facing prosecution.
But in school,
where a name comes out,
everybody's aware.
Yes, where a name comes out, this is where sociologists and psychologists are brought
Okay.
in to try and speak
To
to that
counsel,
child expert, to
yeah.
counsel the children that look, and even the parents too, because some parents also feel that society will stigmatize them. So we counsel both parents and the victim to say, look, this happens everywhere. The important thing is that the abuser has been arrested, is facing justice.
Okay.
That is some kind of recompense for the victim.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. So at least we're happy that it's not just reporting, it's about knowing that when you report, there's something that will actually be
Yes,
done to that
punishment,
person.
Exactly.
Because sometimes if there's no punishment, the people that are being
Yes.
abused do not have the mind to come up.
And the
because it be
offender
like
will just go away with
exactly,
it.
and then it will actually encourage the
Yes.
person to even continue.
And that's why we talk about impunity, because so many of these abusers are even influential people. Some persons with money, they have influence, so they use their influence to try and block prosecution.
Okay.
So when that happens, that's where organizations like the CLO will come in. Once we escalate it,
Okay.
no matter how early placed, we think that justice is justice, no
Okay.
matter who.
I
Okay.
know.
Thank you,
With
thank you.
the-
We want to continue with this conversation, but the time is not on our
Okay.
side.
I wanted to talk about
Actually,
social media.
but no
How social
problem.
media
Yeah, social media.
portrays.
Maybe someone else I will
Abuses,
actually
yeah.
look into some of these other areas that could actually help to reduce the form of abuse and all that on girl child, women, and the rest. So thank you for coming
Thank
on
you
the
very much.
so
program.
much.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
Yes, thank you for coming. So we've been speaking with Iho Akarega. He is a public affairs analyst and also the president, Civil Liberties Organization. And we've been talking about the empowering women and children to recognize their rights and stand against abusers. And he has told us a whole lot what to do in case you're the victim, how to reach out to people, who to reach out to, and also if you know or you recognize someone that is actually being abused, you know the right people to actually reach out to.